When you talk about young talents, what is the first quality that comes to your mind? Apart from the immense talent that they have for playing chess, one thing that is common to all, take let's say a young Bobby Fischer or a young Magnus Carlsen or a young Vishy Anand, is that they are fearless. When they get an opportunity to play against the greatest players of their era, they do not buckle down, they rise up to the occasion. That's what happened with Praggnanandhaa when he played at the New in Chess Classic tournament. This is an event where 16 of really strong players are taking part. So let me just show you who the players are here. That's Praggnanandhaa. He was playing on the first day from his home in Chennai. The 16 players, of course, include Magnus Carlsen, Rajabo, our very own Vidit Gujarati, Wesley So, Nakamura, Firuza, Karjakin. It's an explosive field. And Praggnanandhaa performed amazingly well. He finished right up there on number 4 spot after day 1 with 3 out of 5. He beat Karjakin, he beat Duda, he drew against Mamedyarov, he drew against Gawain Jones. The only loss came against Wesley So. So, great performance by the little Indian, only 15 years old. And the game that we are going to look at is his battle against Karjakin. Now, Praggnanandhaa and Karjakin have been related to each other in many times put forth in articles because Karjakin became the youngest GM in the world at the age of 12 years and 7 months. And Pragg tried very hard to break that record. He became an IM at 10 years, 10 months. And then he wanted to become a GM. Before that, he played a lot of events. But then he missed it by a whisker by becoming a GM at 12 years, 10 months. So although these records are not so relevant when these players grow up, it was very exciting at that point whether Pragg would become the youngest GM or not. Now they are facing each other on the board, and that's the game that we are going to look at. So Pragg with white opens the game with 1 d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, b6. The queen's Indian, and Karjakin is known for this opening. There are certain openings which are like slightly inferior. Let's say queen's Indian, maybe not as solid as d5 qgd, maybe not as active as say something like king's Indian or Grunfeld if you play on move to g6, but it is kind of an opening which Karjakin is very good at. So g3, bishop a6, and b3 was played. Now bishop b4 check, bishop d2, just provoke the bishop there and then go back so that the knight cannot get this square, and then eventually you don't get this harmonious setup. Okay, knight c3, Pragg says I'll develop d5, you take, pawn takes, bishop g2, and castles, bishop b7. So why did white waste a tempo like going to a6 and coming back? There are many reasons for it, but one of them is that with this move b3, he hopes to exploit the dark square weaknesses that have been created. And secondly, the queen cannot jump to b3 or a4 easily. These are little subtle points, but Pragg went knight e5, knight bd7, and now imagine if the pawn were on b2, then queen a4 would have been a very strong move. Bishop f4 by Pragg, rook e8, rook c1, and knight f8. Now Pragg may be out of his preparation, is a very standard position. Even if you are not prepared, you know how to play it. But Karjakin already had a game like this, and that's why he was playing very confidently. He played knight e6, and Pragg went in knight c6. He was hoping that Karjakin would take here, and then he would get this rook in with some pressure down the c7 point, queen c2, maybe rook jumps in, all of that. But Karjakin just very calmly played queen d7. And do you know the reason for that? The reason is that he has already played a game, same position, against Boris Gelfand in 2012 when Pragg was just 6 years old or 7 years old. So knight e7, rook e7, and now you would really love to capture the pawn on c7, but after knight f4, gf4, rook c8, the knight is trapped. So you can't do it. You cannot even take it with the bishop because d5 is hanging. So you had to retreat. And here Karjakin already has a nice position. Take. He plays a5. He knows his stuff, how to play here. Bishop a6. And then he gets his rook to the center. Already black's position is very harmonious, very nice. The bishop is active. The knight can jump to e4. But Pragg also has his trumps. You know, the rook on the c file, he wants to double at some point, keep pressure here. If he can, you know, make use of this g file at some point, could be handy. It's an interesting battle. G6, Queen D2, and perhaps H5 was a little bit not necessary. Karjakin could have played knight E4, and I think black is doing pretty well here. But okay, H5, Pragg doubles on the C file, H4, and now H3, stopping the pawn from moving any further, Queen F5. And now I like Praggnanandhaa's next sort of maneuver. The knight on c3 is doing nothing much. Yes, it's putting pressure here, but it's well defended. b5 is out of bounds. So let's reroute this knight. And how did he do it? Knight a4, rook d7, queen d1, and then he played knight back to b2. So the idea is that the knight should go from d3 to e5, but the bishop is controlling it. So what we can do is, we can play bishop f1, exchange these bishops, and then knight d3, knight d5. And the c7 is weak. Maybe rook can jump into c6. Okay, king h6, rook goes to c6, bishop b5, rook c2, and bishop a6. This is the moment where I can tell you that this character of this young lad is shown. So he's got this opportunity by qualifying from the Challengers Chess Tour to play all these big names. So he could have said, okay, rook c6, Karjakin draw. I don't know if Karjakin would have accepted it. Maybe Karjakin would have changed his move because he wants to beat Pragg. But Pragg himself changed the move. He played king h2. He's like, I won't get such opportunities to play the world-class players again very soon. I have to make use of my every single opportunity or the move that I get. So king g7, bishop f1, now exchanging the bishops. So that's our plan, right? To come here. Knight e4, rook jumps in, king f8, and knight d3. Suddenly, white's position started looking menacing because rooks are well placed, knight is coming in. So Karjakin says, hey, wait, you can't come here. I'm blocking this path. Rook 1, c2 was played, king e8, and now came the move, queen g2. Good move. The thing is that this knight does not have a good discovery so that the knight on d3 would fall. But knight d6 was played, and I was expecting here when I was commentating live that Pragg will go knight e1 to put his knight on f3, maybe attack this pawn. But what did Pragg play here? An amazing move. What did he do? Just, I would give an exclamation to this move, not for its objective value, but the spirit. You know, you're playing the best defender in the world. He's known as the Minister of Defense. And yet you go in and sacrifice your knight. That shows character here, guys. That shows the bravery. Takes fe. Now both ways is good. But fe5, maybe Pragg thought f2 would get a little soft. So he took with d. This structure looks very nice. Here, I think Karjakin underestimated the dangers to his king. He should have maybe thought of d4, giving back the piece, de, and then let's say fe, rook e3. He's getting his own counterplay. f4 is weak, the king is here, but the position would be around equal. You know, if this is the kind of variation that happened, the position is equal, and the game would perhaps end in a draw. Also, like for example, d takes e3, you can't really take the rook, because after queen f4, it's a checkmate that's coming in. There's also a beautiful variation that I analyzed, which I want to share, which started with knight c4. So here you see the knight is blocking, so that I want to take this rook. What should white play here, guys? Try to think. Take, and rook g6. Also, rook f6 is winning in case you have thought of that move, but rook g6 is very powerful. When I thought of this variation, it looked so amazing because your threat is to go queen a8. If rook d8, you have rook g8. If queen a8, there is king f7, you have queen g8 mate. It's very difficult. These two rooks actually trap the king. It's very weird. And so like a move I thought was rook e6, but then rook g8, king e7, check. And once again, it's black's pieces himself which stop his king from, escaping. So that does not work. So rook g6, maybe another thing was king f7, but check and you lose the queen. Even that is not great. Karjakin went knight e4. That's a decent move. Takes. And now king d8. Good move. Trying to defend so that if a check, you meet it with rook e8. That's what happened in the game. He played take, king takes. Again jumps in. Queen has to block. And here a check came in. King d8. Here it seemed like Karjakin is slowly getting things going for him. Queen c6 was played. And now knight to c5. Blocking the c5. Here Pragg was under 1 minute. And I thought he cannot sustain, handle this pressure. But the boy showed again that he is made for the big league by playing rook c1. Very nice move. Queen is well placed. It's time to get a new life for the rook on the g file. Rook c1, d4, rook g1. Now, by the way, Karjakin's d4 move was also nice. And here, it was very important to find the only defensive move, guys. Can you find it for black? Pragg has a very, very nasty trap in mind. So it's very important that you go king e7, queen f3. I don't know how much of this could have been played with time pressure being an issue. But f5, d2, f6, king e8, check. Here, threatening a mate. So why has to go back, check, and it might be a draw. The objective assessment is equal. But Karjakin played d3, and guess what Pragg did here? White to play and finish off the game. Did you find this move? What a move. It's basically bringing the queen to a square where it would not be able to protect by the king after king e7, and then you will win the queen. So great move. It's called decoy. Queen takes g8, check, take here. And now this pawn is not strong enough because you have white pawns are coming down the board. The threat is f5, f6, checkmate. So rook d8, check, check. You can't take the pawn because queen f6 and you lose the rook. So you have to play king d5, e6, and here Karjakin resigned the game because queen d4 is coming. What a game by Pragg. Also e7 is coming. He won against the Minister of Defense in his own terrain by attacking him viciously. And with this, he has a great chance to finish in top 8. It's still a long way away. He has to play 10 more rounds, but a great start by the youngster. Pragg, we are proud of you. Keep going.